You've all seen this clip, I take it.
After hours of standing off, this situation has now rapidly deteriorated. The LAPD moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
You just shut the You okay?
This one's made it pretty big. Stuff like this happens all the time. The LAPD loves doing stuff like this. It's how they blow off steam. You can see the cop over on the left. Look at the leftmost cop. Look at the leftmost. Just in case you hadn't seen it, look at the leftmost cop.
You just shut the You okay?
Getting wacky with it. The stuff like this happens all the time, but in this case, it happened to a well-liked Australian lady reporter. So you've got a bunch of multiplying factors here. Very open, very clear footage. It's a lady, foreigner. Did he just get spooked or what? No, cops just like hurting people. They're just that kind of person. They just, yeah, seriously, like, very often when you watch protest footage, you just have to arrive at the conclusion that they just like hurting people. That's really the only... It's not like what they just did helped them in any way, you know? Am I being too optimistic and expecting Australia to take action around this? Actually, my understanding is that they're f***ing outraged over there. The clip is blown up, and it's like really getting... What action would they take? I mean, if there's national outrage over it, it furthers what I would consider to be a holy war against the United States. Other Western countries recognizing that we are a shithole tin pot, you know, cuspid dictatorship country, and they should not bother with us. Also, by the way, every Hitlerite in this country wants the image of the Los Angeles protests to be the Waymo cars that caught fire somehow. I wasn't looking, I wasn't there, I didn't see anything, you know? They want to say, well, the protests were violent because look at this tin can that hit a cop, you know? The protests were violent. There's the violence.
You just shut the
I didn't see no protester shoot a cop. I didn't see that happen. British photographer was shot too. Had to undergo emergency surgery. Jesus. Oh, hey, look at that clip. I've seen that one. I'm familiar with this one. Issue a travel ban. You guys excited for the World Cup? Several other people got shot in the head as well. Yeah, of course. They love doing that. It's like their favorite thing. Honestly, I'd say we're lucky there's been no deaths so far. I think that the LAPD has been restrained operationally. Like the way they have been ordered to conduct their crowd dispersal has been more or less hinged relative to the LAPD, but the individual behavior of the individual police officers still betrays the fact that these people are sociopaths. At least a lot of them are. Again, I don't need to keep, you know, we've done this a million times, okay? Like, I don't need to keep litigating this, but I hope most people understand, okay? It's not about the department policy. It's that the culture of the police encourages and protects the sociopaths who work there, you know? Not every cop is you know, wants to bludgeon people to death sociopath, but there are enough of them, and they get a lot of institutional protection. They all fold to protect each other, so functionally, from a distance, it doesn't really matter who's who. If you want to prove cops are psycho, just pull up footage from the George Floyd protests. Oh, God, yeah, I mean, we spent months covering that. That was like in the early days of the channel, yeah. I had to talk about this so much more back then, because there were a lot more liberals who were watching me, who were, like, getting on boarded to that crap, you know? Jesus. Well, we'll see how bad it gets here. The funny thing is that the most audacious thing that's happened, like, policy-wise, has been calling in the National Guard. The National Guard haven't done shit. They haven't done anything yet, because they're just guarding the federal building. They're not out there, you know, protest breaking. That's not their job. They're just standing there. They're just chilling. Are you excited for the World Cup? I'm American, so no. I'll love watching football hooligans face off with U.S. police during the World Cup. Not going to happen here. We don't have that kind of culture. You raise money during the BLM streams, right? Yeah, for a bailout fund. Non-Americans will. We'll see how many of them show up. We'll see how many of them show up. Anyway, this clip's getting a lot of media attention, but to my mind, the one the media doesn't want you to see, and I mean that, by the way, I'm being conspiratorial. I'm putting my tinfoil hat on. Remember this one? This one's about as explicit as it gets. You've got the guy laying on the ground, and then multiple officers try to get their horses to trample him. Only reason he didn't get kicked in the head there and die was because of luck. I mean, it's, you know, police horses are trained not to trample people. You know, they're trained to be calm. Yeah, they literally turn the horse around to try to get another go at trampling him. Yeah, I wish they trained the police that well. Straight up abuse. Well, it's attempted murder. But the media is not talking about this, even though it's clear as day. There's no other interpretation of what's going on here. Why the cop yank him back down? I don't know. Let the horses have another attempt to trample him? The reason they want the horses to trample him is because these stupid pigs think nobody's watching them because they're, I don't know, they're 40 years old and they forget that everything has a camera on it now. And they think that any death that's because of a horse trampling will be accidental. Oh yeah, sorry, it went out of control. The guy resisted. This guy charged us. Got under the horse's hooves. There was nothing we could do. Are they getting charged for this? Probably not, no. Second trampled protester? Is there another one? Is LAPD worse than NYPD? Two bad bitches. Local news basically just repeats whatever the cops say. Yup. Mm-hmm. I think for some reason people still think of local journalists as being like Hunter S. Thompson types or whatever. Like you've got a bunch of like chain-smoking guys wearing camp collar shirts who will like run headlong into danger and get the scoop and like interrogate critically the police officers and what happened. That shit doesn't happen. That's fake. That's a misty-eyed, rosy, anachronistic, altogether not really historical portrait of what it may have looked like at some point in the long, you know, far in the past. That is not how it works. Local news literally just repeats the briefings they get from police, time and time again. They're all owned by conglomerates. Why can't we have that? Because police officers would destroy their offices if they did. You have any idea how often police officers find excuses to tear into the reporting and offices of people who do that kind of journalism? Local papers often do that kind of work. It depends. Sometimes. They don't even match up with media descriptions of the police anymore. Yeah, I think it's really telling that when right-wingers draw police in their political cartoons, they draw police how they looked in the 1980s. They draw guys in, like, a khaki work shirt and trousers with, like, a radio and a pistol or whatever, whereas every police department now is always dressed the way, like, riot cops were dressed. Like, yeah, cops are all in military gear all the time now, you know? I think it's really telling that, like, there is a deliberate effort in the media to not make them look as scary as they actually look. Pull up a UK officer? Sure, London police officer. Uniform. Honestly, they're looking a little bit more... In the UK, don't they typically look like this? They tend to wear, like... They wear, like, traffic vests, right? I feel like I've seen a lot of pictures where in London they're wearing these, like, neon... I mean, this looks a hell of a lot less threatening than the way American riot cops look. That's like all of Europe. I mean, it makes sense. As an officer, wouldn't you want to be visible? I don't really understand why we dress cops in, like, midnight blue. The whole point is that they're supposed to be community officers. They're not in camo. To be fair, here in Belgium, our riot police look the same as yours. Yeah, but that's your riot police. These are our regular-ass police. This is how they always look. Actually, I would say normally they look more threatening than this because these guys are clearly carrying riot gear. Normally, cops are not carrying big orange, you know, less lethal weapons or whatever. They're carrying regular weapons. So yeah, this is how they... This is German, I guess. This is how they look in my head, you know? Definitely less threatening. I still stand by my belief that in a proper society, in a good society, community, police are supposed to look like the mom or the dad on the corner. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a kid who's lost or somebody has a problem, you should be able to run up to them and go like, I'm in trouble, can you help? And they're like, oh, right away then. Hoop. Now, obviously, that's not the world we live in, but I think that's an ideal to aspire to, you know? I also do think that socially speaking, I would much rather police officers look a little bit dressy than like they're always prepared for war, just because I think it communicates a greater degree of social rest, like more calm. You know what I mean? If you look like you're dressed for war all the time, you know, kind of implies something about the society you live in. Seems bad. Japanese officers are like this? Yes. They're dressed pretty chill. At least that's what I remember seeing. I don't know, they're chilling. Of course, Japanese police are pretty often, like, authoritarian, and so is their policing system, their justice system, so it's not necessarily a reflection of how free a country is, you know? It's more like, vibes-wise, I just hate the fact that our police always look like they're ready to be deployed into Afghanistan.